This is the new Dragon X9 bow. You can buy it right now on Amazon for $300. I'll put a link down in the description, but let's go over some of the good, some of the bad, and compare it to this bow, the Dragon X8, which has been the most popular bow on Amazon for the past several years. So this is my Dragon X8 bow from Sanlida. I bought it on Amazon with my own money for $200 about 2 years ago. And there's a reason why it's so popular. It's fully adjustable for draw and weight. It's fairly inexpensive. It's a great entry-level bow that gives you everything you need to get started with archery and bow hunting. So for 2023, Sanlida came out with this bow. This is the Dragon X9. And you can tell right away, they're very similar. They have a lot of the same features and same parts. So it has the same cams, very similar limbs. The riser and stock has been upgraded. The sights, arrow rest, front dampener has been upgraded. This includes a limb dampener as well. So let's go over the new features on this bow, and we can also compare it to the old Dragon X8. So first, before I talk about this more in depth, let's do a quick comparison on the stats between the two bows. Both the X8 and X9 have the same axle-to-axle length of 30 inches. They have the same brace height as 6.6 inches. They have the same draw weight adjustability from 0 to 70 pounds. And they have the same adjustable draw length between 18 and 31 inches. And they also weigh the same, right around 4 pounds. So mechanically, size-wise, they're very similar. Now let's go into more details about the new X9 bow. So when you get the bow delivered, it comes packaged really well, molded plastic, everything's where it's supposed to be. As far as assembly, it's pretty straightforward. You just use Allen wrenches to attach the sight, and then different Allen wrenches to attach the arrow rest. As far as draw weight, you can do what I did when I started out. Just shoot it a few times, and if you want it harder to draw back, you tighten these two nuts on the limbs. If you know your draw weight, like I've been shooting that bow for several years, I shoot right around 58-pound draw weight. I used a luggage scale. I stepped on it, lifted it up, and I can adjust it accordingly till I get that same draw weight. One thing I did notice is even though I set these up for the same draw weight and same draw length, so on the X8, I was kind of maxed out on my draw weight for this length. I had these tightened all the way down, and it gets right around 58 or 60 pounds. You can see it's tight between the limb here. On the X9, I have it for the same draw length and the same draw weight, 58 or 60 pounds, but I have more room here. So if I wanted to go up in poundage, I have more adjustability here. And looking at it, I could probably crank this up to around 65 pounds. As far as draw length, again, you can shoot it, and if you want it longer, you just come up here and adjust these two Allen bolts to increase or decrease the draw length to fit your size. But I'd been shooting that bow, I knew exactly the draw length I like, which is 29 inches. So I went to the chart and I adjusted these two nuts on either side of the cam and got a 29-inch draw length. Again, it helps that I've had that other bow because I kind of set this up the same way. For example, I only like 3 pins on my sight, 20, 30, 40 yards. The new bow comes with 5 pins. I found those more distracting than I needed them to be, so I removed 2 of those pins. As far as setting up your sight pins and your arrow rest, one thing to note, you want the burger hole, which is this point right here where you're bolting it into, to be in line with your arrow. And that takes a little bit of trial and error shooting it. You can kind of eyeball it when you set it up. But I did notice when I took a few shots in slow motion that my arrow was dipping a little bit in the back, which meant my arrow rest was too low. So that's something you have to set up and then shoot a few, trial and error, see how your arrow's flying, and adjust accordingly. Same thing with these sight pins. You bolt it in with 2 Allen bolts, and then there's pins to adjust it left and right and up and down. And a quick rule of thumb is follow the arrow. If you're missing left, move your sight left, and that'll bring it back to the right. If you're missing low, move your pin down, and that'll bring it up. So follow your arrow with the sight pins. If you have a 27 or 28-inch draw length, this one locking Allen bolt kind of is blocked by the limb. So when you're adjusting it, I have it on 2 for my 29-inch draw length. But if I set it to a 4, this Allen bolt was blocked by the riser. So I had to ask for help from another person. I would pull this back and then have someone loosen that bolt a little so I could adjust the length. The rest of the assembly was pretty straightforward. You just put the front stabilizer through the wrist strap and lock it in. One thing I've done on that bow and this bow is I didn't like how the strap was kind of hanging out to the side, so I put a small hole in the strap so it kind of wraps around. It just looks a little better and is out of the way. Another thing you might have to adjust is the peep sight on the string. When you draw it back, you want that to align up with your eye. I had to adjust mine up or down, and then you can lock it in place. I also like a little nose rest when I draw another anchor point, so I added that on there. And just another little feature, I like to have a little bit of grip tape on the handle, just some cheap squishy tape. It gives a nicer little grip to handle, and especially when it's 20 degrees out like today, it's a little warmer on the hand. Now, as far as some of the new features, the X9 comes with really nice limb dampeners already installed for you. You don't have to do it. On the old bow, I had to buy some limb dampeners if I wanted to use them. So that's one feature that's already on the new bow. Another thing that comes with the X9 is a wrist release. If I had to guess at what this would cost on Amazon if you wanted to buy it, probably 15 bucks. Mechanically, it felt a little light, but it worked just fine. But it's something that'll get you started with shooting. Again, if you want to upgrade to a thumb release, something like that, you can buy that and try that out. Again, this is something to get you started. But it is very similar to the wrist release that I use. So there's not much of a difference. This is a little bit more premium. I like the strap with a buckle instead of the Velcro. It's more repeatable in how I attach it. But this is something to get you started and something you could use and go hunting with. And when you're ready to upgrade, you can go to something new. As far as the sight, it's very similar to the X8, but it's a little bit upgraded. Same thing with the arrow rest. Very similar. It's a 3-brush arrow rest. But it's a little bit upgraded and more robust that came with the old X8. On the X8 now, I upgraded it to a real whisker biscuit arrow rest, which I like. This has been surprisingly good, but I think if I shot this more in the future, I would also upgrade this to a whisker biscuit arrow rest. So as far as arrows go, these are the arrows that come with the kit, and in some respects they're quite good, in others they can use improvement. So when I cut this down to 28 inches, I cut it down and I usually add a 100 grain insert. The thickness of the arrow was quite good. So compared to the arrows that I normally shoot, which are these, which are $40 or $50 for 12, these arrows were the same thickness and they feel the same rigidity. They're also 320 spine. So these are perfect arrows for me in that regard, nice and thick. I've seen some arrows you could buy on Amazon that are really thin-walled and they shatter and they break. They're not as good. These are much more robust. Now, one issue I saw was first with the nocks. They had a metal insert and then the plastic nock fits on that. It didn't really snap into the string very well, and a couple of these nocks were loose and spun right off. Again, that could be fixed with a little bit of super glue, but it was just a small issue. The main issue I found was the fletching. So in the 6.6-inch brace height, with these normal arrows I use, I put it through the arrow rest and snap it into the string. With the arrows that came with the kit, they wouldn't fit when it wasn't at draw. So I would have to snap the nock into the arrow and then try to put it into the arrow rest, and the fletching hit. So the fletching interfered when it wasn't at draw with the arrow rest. When I drew it back, it was fine and it released fine. But when it was not at draw, the fletching in the arrow rest brushes hit, which was kind of annoying. As you could see, when you line these up, the arrow rest is right about here. But I'm guessing by the time you look on Amazon or go to buy this issue might be fixed. Hopefully the company's seen this and they fixed that issue. Either shortening the fletching, moving them back, or moving the arrow rest forward. Do something to fix this issue. I bet they're going to fix the arrow somehow. And one other feature that would have been nice is some string wax. Just a little thing like this for 50 cents. You can wax the string and keep it nice and clean.
So I've been shooting this bow for several months now, and this is my opinion on the performance of the actual bow itself. The reason why the X8 has been the most popular bow for the past several years, and the X9 is continuing this trend. It's just a fun, easy bow to shoot. It's got a smooth draw, there's no peaks and valleys in the draw. Some bows will have a little bit more let off, maybe more than 80%, but they have not a smooth draw. There's a big hump in the draw cycle before the let off. This is just an easy bow that anyone can draw and shoot. Everything is really consistent. The back wall is consistent and nice and firm. It's a quiet bow to shoot. It's got a dead in the hand feel, which means it's well balanced on the release. What you really want, especially in hunting, is consistency. You don't want any surprises when you're out in the woods. You don't want anything that you have to adjust and tweak. You want a bow that will be consistent and shoot the same way every time. And so the balance and the limb dampeners are a nice add-on and make this an even easier bow to shoot than the X8. It is definitely an upgrade. Now you might be looking at this review and seeing all the little add-ons and features and saying they're not as premium, but I can tell you that the core bow itself, the cams, the limbs, the risers, are all really well made and compared to bows several $100s more. The base bow itself is the well-made part of this kit. So let's talk about the pros of this bow. Now first is the price. That's probably what's going to draw you or get your attention more than other bows. It is several $100s cheaper than comparable bows in its same category. The next pro is the adjustability. It's easily adjusted. It will fit any person's size, a teenager, an adult. You can hand it to them and it can be adjusted without tools. You don't have to go to an archery shop to adjust it. Another pro is it has everything. So even if you spend more money on those other bows, you're not ready to go out and hunt. You need to buy more things. This comes with arrows. It comes with a case. It comes with a quiver. It comes with an arrow release. Now, these things can be upgraded as you use them more, but if you're getting this for someone else, a gift, or you're just getting started, it has everything you need to start hunting and start shooting a bow.
Now some of the cons. Number one is the arrow rest. I upgraded to a Whisker Biscuit on the other one, and even though this is a little bit better arrow rest, I like the Whisker Biscuit instead. In the woods when you're hunting, I think less is more. You want it simple. But I do like the Whisker Biscuit a little bit better. It feels more secure than this 3-brush arrow rest. It was a little annoying dealing with all these Allen wrenches that you drop and lose. It would have been nice to have a little tool with all the Allen wrenches right in there. So as a comparison to other bows you might be looking to, this could be compared with a Bear Cruiser G2, which is $349, similar to a Bear Species EV, which is $420, and it's similar to a PSE Uprising, which is $369. Again, this comes complete, ready to go, everything you need out of the box, whereas those you might have to buy additional add-ons. It's a great thing to get for somebody and they're ready to go out in the woods, go shooting, go hunting. So I hope this helps. Thanks.